For the week ending June the 17th, the advanced figures of seasonally adjusted unemployment initial claims was 264,000, and that's unchanged from the previous week's revised level. The 4-week moving average for these unemployment claims was 255,750. That is an increase of 8,500 from the previous week's revised average. This is the highest level of claims for this average since November 13, 2021, when it was 260,000. The U.S. unemployment rate for the month of May is 3.7%. For the week ending June the 17th, we had 7 states that had unemployment claims with a decline of at least 1,000. These states were Georgia, which was down 2,417, Indiana, which was down 1,983, Missouri down 1,983, South Carolina down 1,783, Ohio down 1,543, Minnesota down 1,532, and New York down 1,225. That's a pretty large number of claims. We haven't seen so many with claim decreases of 1,000 or more. On the flip side, we also had 5 states that had some fairly large increases in unemployment claims for that week ending June the 17th. California was up 7,318, total claim number 55,386. New Jersey came in with an increase of 2,298. Its claim total for that week is 9,754. Connecticut was up 2,197 for a total claims recorded at 6,578. Texas was up 1,553, claim total 28,393. And Wisconsin was up 1,061 for an unemployment claim total logged in on June 17th of 5,217. An interesting leading indicator for the overall U.S. economy is freight rail traffic. It's a measure of the amount of raw materials and finished goods being shipped by rail. The best source for this data is the American Association of Railroads, or AAR. It publishes this data weekly. As has been the case for the last year, freight rail traffic was down this week compared to the same time last year. Total U.S. weekly rail traffic of 477,126 carloads and intermodal. That's down 3% compared with the same week last year. We've seen this decline in the 5% range over the past couple reports, so this is maybe a good thing. Total combined U.S. traffic for the first 24 weeks of 2023 was 11,859 carloads and intermodal, and that is a decrease of 5.5% compared to this time last year. The weekly average, when we're looking at this data, the weekly average for total freight car traffic is about 465,000. Year over year, when we're looking back, it's 475,000. I've marked the slide so you can see where the range is, and we're just peaking just above that 475,000 number there. So hopefully it's trending in the right direction. This will be an interesting indicator to look at as the U.S. economy does improve. We keep hearing about a recession. Hard to say exactly when that'll start. In many cases, business conditions do seem to be pretty good. But I do think when we start seeing freight rail traffic improve and turn positive compared to last year, that may be a sign that maybe the recession could have been snuffed out. Several key parts of freight rail traffic took a turn for the positive in the most recent report. We saw that 7 of the 10 carload commodity groups posted an increase compared to the same week in 2022. They included motor vehicles and parts, which were up 2,914 carloads, non-metallic minerals up 2,599 carloads, and metallic ores and metals up 2,341 carloads. There were commodity groups that posted some declines compared to 2022, and these were grain, which was down 4,892 carloads, chemicals down 2,084 carloads, and forest products down 272 carloads. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count, which tracks the oil and gas rigs that are operating. This data is available by state, by basin, and nationally from Baker Hughes at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This slide gives you an idea of the largest oil and gas deposits. It really gives you a good sense of just how many of the large oil plays are in Texas and Oklahoma, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. Through the week ending June 23rd, the total Baker Hughes rig count dropped by 5 rigs. That's a much milder decline than the 15 rig decline we discussed in our last podcast. The state of Texas did see a 6 rig decline. Most of the other states were just had declines of 1, 2, or 3. New Mexico was down by 1 rig, Louisiana down 2 rigs, Oklahoma down 3 rigs, and North Dakota down by 1 rig. Looking at the major bases, the Permian was down 2 rigs. They were down just a very mild increase over last year, year over year, about 1.8% where it was at, and that is the largest individual base and 348 operating rigs. Eagle Ford rig also in Texas down 2 rigs, and they're down 12.1% compared to last year. The current price for WTI crude oil slid below $7 a barrel as of June 23rd, when it registered at $69.23, according to macrotrends.net. The average price for WTI per barrel in 2023 is $76.36. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper, and that's because it's a leading economic indicator for future activity. Copper is used in many industries, with the construction industry being one of the leading markets because of its wide use in wire and cable and copper plumbing pipe. COMEX copper prices as of June 23rd are $3.82 per pound. They've been below that $4 per pound mark since April, and the overall mark through 2023 average price per pound is $3.97. Now let's take a look at where the price of electrical products are headed in Electrical Marketing's Electrical Price Index. We're going to hit some of the highlights. If you need a vetted electrical pricing indicator on a monthly basis, they're part of a $99 annual subscription to Electrical Marketing. We cover more than 20 specific electrical product groups. For information on how to subscribe to Electrical Marketing and to get that electrical price index monthly, go to www.electricalmarketing.com. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights of Electrical Marketing's Electrical Price Index for May. We did see the trend toward moderation continue in May. The total index was just up 1.1% for the month over April, and up 3.7% over in the past year. Just to give you a perspective on the historical trend for the total index, 0.2% is the average monthly increase over the year. 2.6% on a year-over-year basis is what we have seen in average. Some of the products that were bucking the monthly trend of just a 0.1% increase: conduit fittings were up 1.6%, ballast up 1.6%, non-metallic conduit up 1.2%, and industrial fixtures up 1%. When we look at the year-over-year changes, some of the notable changes there, and again, the total index is up 3.7% over May 2022. Wiring devices and connectors up 24.1% still, and they are not seeing any moderation with a double-digit increase like that. Metal conduit year-over-year increase 18.7%. Power wire and cable up 18.3%. Switchgear up 12.1%, and transformers up 11.8%. So no decline, no moderation there as far as we can see. Conduit fittings were bucking below the average there, just 1.2% year-over-year increase, and building wire and cable surprisingly down 2.9% year-over-year over from May 2022. This slide gives you a bit more on the moderation, as you can see in the price index. Also, as I mentioned, average monthly increase 0.2%. Looking from 2019, just before the COVID era there, you can see that we were, for the month, we were just right around that average for a good chunk of the time. You can see the dramatic increase in 2022 on a monthly, where we hit over 3.5%, and that's way, way over the average. Bottom chart there, the monthly year-over-year change. Take a look from 2019, when we were definitely right around the average. We crested in 2000, right around mid-year 2022. We were close to 20% on the total index, which is something I could not find going back quite a ways in our electrical price index data. And we could go back to the 1990s on that. So this is an interesting indicator. It's one of the most popular features that we have in electrical marketing. I'm working on a quarterly report for notable construction projects that either broke ground or hit the planning stage for the second quarter 2023. The one thing that really stuck out with the projects that I've tallied so far, industrial construction totally reigns supreme. It's really in a whole different track than many other parts of the market, as you can imagine. Office construction not doing quite as well. Residential construction, although it had some pretty good, the most recent report did show some signs of waking up, not to the point of industrial construction. Let's take a look at some of the specific projects. This slide here gives you an example of some of the large industrial projects that either broke ground or hit the planning stages over the past couple of months. The largest of them all right now that I could find, Steel Dynamics aluminum plant in Columbus, Mississippi. That is $1.9 billion, and that broke ground in May. Ford had a very large EV plant breaking ground in Sheffield, Ohio, $1.5 billion, and it also broke ground in May. General Motors made some very interesting announcements, 3 different assembly plants for existing product lines, not in the EV space, which they're also quite active in, but they announced plans for renovations to an existing assembly plant in Flint for over $1 billion, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, $632 million, and in Arlington, Texas for $500 million, and these build either their trucks or some of their SUV lines. There was also a fairly large plant, a Group 14 battery plant in Moses Lake, Washington. That is $650 million, and that was broke ground in April. BASF had a large chemical plant in Geismar, Louisiana, that broke ground in March, $780 million. We had a large Honda EV plant, industrial EV battery plant, that was $33.5 billion, and that's in Jeffersonville, Ohio. We had a lithium-ion battery plant in Hopkinton, Kentucky, broke ground in February. That was $500 million. Some of these LNG plants get quite large. We had one that broke ground in Port Arthur, Texas, and that was $5.3 billion, huge. Another large industrial LNG plant broke ground in April in Jacksonville, Florida. That's the Eagle LNG export facility. We had a pharmaceutical plant, which you haven't seen as many of them recently, but a very large broke ground in May in Indianapolis. That's the Eli Lilly Company plant. And in Cartersville, Georgia, we had a large solar manufacturing facility broke ground in April, $1.2 billion.